this stand for the neighborhood party.
Right on. Oh. With such big hits. Welcome to Thoughts Off the Stem. I'm Justin Barone, and today we're still smoking that Jean Guy. You know why? Because it doesn't fuck me up too bad. I can still carry on in a relatively intelligent conversation. Plus, I'm trying to get rid of it. I'd like to buy the Cuban Links live resin next. I have the fucking burps today. Holy shit. I think I drank beer too fast or something. Yeah, well, thank you for joining me, Justin Barone, your friendly neighborhood pothead, on Friday at 4:20 to start your weekend off right, baby. Oh, excuse me. This week for the pre-roll, we're going to smoke Dealer. This is from Dealer. Blueberry Frost. It's 5 half-gram hybrids. It's 37, nope, that's wrong. 27.9% THC. Let's see, does it give a terp profile? Yeah, terp profile is 1.73%. It doesn't say what they are, though. So yeah, I figured I'd try those out today on the podcast. I also wanted to talk about, because I've been thinking about this recently, is that, it's kind of funny to me that people look at potheads as kind of like the people that don't have any idea in the group. You know what I mean? Like people often look at us like we're aloof. We don't know what's going on. We're not paying attention. We're unobservant, And I take a little bit of offense to this because, yeah, sure. I mean, there is the occasional pothead that's all like, hey, man, what's going on? Like there's that dude out there for sure. But I think that most potheads aren't like that. I think most potheads have it pretty much together, what I like to call responsible potheadery, where even though we smoke weed, we don't necessarily let it affect our lives in a negative way. We normally use it to enhance a bunch of different things or a bunch of different aspects or fix things or whatever. So when people say like, I don't know if people say it, but I get the vibe sometimes that people look at you and they're like, oh, look at this fucking pothead talking about some shit he doesn't even know. Like, we know shit too. We like to read and get high and then learn some shit. That's our way of like making it stick. Get high so we have fun, so it reminds us of what that was, so it like embeds itself in our brain and our understanding. You know what I'm saying? And the reason that I bring this up is because last podcast I talked about a situation at my daughter's school where myself included and a bunch of parents were a bit in an uproar. Not an uproar, but like there was a situation. Watch the last podcast, you'll know what it is. But basically, we thought that the teacher wasn't doing the right thing, so we excused our kids from class that day. But the thing that made me laugh about this, and the thing that kind of like brought this thought on, I guess you could say, is that there was like a group of, I guess, 3 families, 2 other families, myself included. Myself and 2 other families. Now, I'm the guy that runs the pot shop, smokes a lot of weed, is known generally as the stoner. I think. We don't hang out, but, they know who I am. Our daughters hang out. So, in this scenario, we got some information. It seemed to me that the other parents reacted like very viscerally, very quickly. They were like, nope, we're not fucking doing that, blah, blah. Whereas like I kind of took the stance of like, well, let's just hear the teacher out, right? And so I decided to get in touch with the teacher and see what the actual deal was. Whereas these other parents that I would consider to be from the outside, the way that, appearances are, have it more together than me. We're very like viscerally, emotionally reactive. Whereas I was like, let's take a beat and think about it. And it kind of made me laugh because, as potheads, we get this label of being lazy or stupid or, we're very easily confused. Meanwhile, I was the only one in the group that was like, let's hear the teacher out. Let's make a decision based on what she said, as opposed to just be like, nope, you're not going to the class. Maybe there was a misinterpretation here, but you're not going. And it just kind of makes me laugh, thinking about the concept that, or the idea that there's people out there that think that there's no point in listening to a pothead. We know shit, man. We know like a lot of different things. There's a lot of different levels of pothead. Trust me. Just like anything, there's a lot of different levels. Yeah, that hippie dude that walks around is like, yo, bro, let's go fucking smoke a fatty and like just hang out and listen to music and play the bongos. Like, that guy's not as common as you would think, you know? I mean, it depends on where you are, I'm sure. But yeah, no, he's not as common as you would think. The space cadet, there's a lot of people that smoke weed that are highly intelligent. And I remember, because we were talking about this, because I was dropping my oldest off at this friend's house, one of the ones that was in her class. We were talking about how they're starting to realize that all the parents smoke weed. And a lot of other family members do too. And I can remember when she was younger, like when I think she was like 10 or 11, maybe 12, but she was young. And she was talking about how the DARE program started telling them that like weed is really bad and it's a gateway drug and all this stuff. And she was sort of like chastising me for smoking weed because she knew at the time that I smoked weed. And she was very upset with me. So I was trying to explain to her, and the way that I explained it was like, so you know when I have a beer, you don't have a problem when I have a beer. She goes, no. I said, well, now weed is legal, so it's like having a beer. Like, it's not a big deal. And in some cases, it's better to have the weed than it is to have the beer. And the only reason that you don't agree with it is because it's being taught to you in a very negative way. And it's not being fairly explained, I guess. It's very one-sided with a little bit of stank on it, you know? So I said, you know, that's the comparison. You don't have a problem when you see somebody drinking a beer because it's normalized, or alcohol or whatever. Whereas if somebody's smoking a joint, it's not normalized. It's brand new, and everything you've ever been taught has been bad when it's not necessarily the case. So I had to re-educate my kids. And where was I going with this? Justin, come on, dude. I just totally flatlined. I haven't even smoked the fucking pre-roll yet. Oh, excuse me. And I got the burps. Man, this is going to make for a great fucking session. Where the fuck was I going with that? Oh, I was, what? No. Holy shit. I totally just spaced out. I don't know if that's the Jean Guy or the fact that I've smoked a lot of weed today. And I haven't smoked like a full day's worth of weed in a long time. Okay. What was I telling you about? I was telling you about my daughter and her friends. Oh yeah, then we were talking about how, you know, they get misinformation. I had to re-educate them and all that stuff. And in that conversation, I said to her that you're going to realize as you get older that, you know, a lot of the people that you know, their parents smoke weed or they do something that has to do with weed. And she didn't believe me. And now she's figuring it out and noticing it. And I guess parents, you know, once you get to a certain age, we don't really hide much from you. So everybody's starting to realize it, and it's kind of funny to me because all this backlash I took initially being the, you know, the guy that works at the pot shop, the guy that knows weed, the guy that's high, the guy that, you know, whatever stereotype you could put on it, I'm sure was, you know, thought or directed in my direction. And to be the one in a scenario where somebody has to use like some kind of logic, it was me that did it, the pothead. So if you ever go to think like, oh, potheads are dumb and they don't know what they're doing, that's not true, man. Sometimes we're the only ones that are fucking thinking straight because we smoke weed. And we kind of like mellow everything out and go like, well, let's just hear them out, you know? That's a big part of smoking weed is learning how to like hear someone else out, man. And yeah, sometimes the people that are like tightly wound don't want anything to do with weed. Sometimes those are the ones that start the shit. I'm just saying. I think that some of the view is a little bit ass backwards. But having said that, I don't know if you paid attention to any of the fucking X stuff that like news that was going on, but like back when Hurricane Milton was flopping around, fucking Lieutenant Dan was flopping around in the ocean, dude. Now I could see how, you know, a guy like that who clearly smokes weed. I don't know if he does. He never said. So, like, this is all alleged. But, like, I would not be surprised if Lieutenant Dan down in Florida in the middle of Milton was like, let's smoke this big fatty. You know what I'm saying? He looked like the type of dude that I would maybe smoke a joint with. But I wouldn't necessarily want him to represent potheads. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, I understand. You see a guy like that, you're like, oh, okay. That kind of brings us down a peg or two, I think. This motherfucker, if you don't know who Lieutenant Dan is, okay? I also think Lieutenant Dan wasn't just on some weed, okay? I'm just saying. He had to have done something else. Like, this motherfucker had one leg. He decided that he was gonna... Again, so if you don't know who he is, this is who he is. He's in Florida. Hurricane Milton's coming in. He's decided that he's going to shack up on a boat attached to a pole on a pier and ride out the storm. Dude, this motherfucker, okay? He takes this little dinghy of a boat and he attaches it to a dock in the ocean in Florida. There's a pole. He ties off the fucking boat to the pole. The waves are getting worse. Like, at first when he was there, it wasn't so bad. And then they're all being evacuated and everybody's like, nope, you know what? He goes, no, I'm going to stay. Everybody else like, yeah, we're the fuck out. See you later. So then a lot of people started catching on to this guy because he started live streaming on X. And next thing you know, he's got this massive following. Dude, a lot of people, I get it, were concerned. But there's some people that were watching that like, yeah, go Lieutenant Dan. This, as I said, this motherfucker took a dinghy of a boat and he tied it to a pole on a dock in the ocean off Florida. I don't know if you've ever been in a boat and a not very big boat. Even small waves can seem like huge waves. This motherfucker's logic was that if the dock was on the left side of his boat, he just had to keep the boat tied to the right side of the pole. As soon as the waves and the wake started getting too big, he would take the boat around to the other side and tie it so that it's stuck on that side. And then he would just, as the swells came in, he would just ride the swells like it wasn't any big deal. I don't know if you've been in a wave pool, but even in a wave pool, in a very small, somewhat controlled environment, sometimes that wave comes down on you and it just crashes on you. Does this motherfucker think he's gonna like cartoon ride a fucking wave, end up on top of it, and then just float down the other side? Oh my god, man. That's what his plan was. And a bunch of the internet idolized him. Now that's not like... That's the problem. That's the problem with society. Dude, okay? You have what is clearly a crackhead, okay, trying to live in a boat during a fucking hurricane. And then our society finds this dude online. Some people care about him. I think most people probably cared about him. But then there's that one side, like, part of society that's just like, yeah, fuck yourself up for our entertainment. Like... Somebody should have arrested that dude right away, just like taking him for his own safety. And then he tried to make a buck off it, I think, by live streaming it on X. Like, I mean, that's pretty daring, but that's also stupid because this dude did interviews and he's just like, no, I know what I'm doing. Since when? You lost a leg. I'm 43. I haven't lost any limbs. I think my choices in life might be a little better than the guy that has decided to ride a dinghy in the middle of fucking Hurricane Milton, attached to a pole on a dock where apparently his magical boat will just float over everything without anything bad happening. Oh, and did I mention that the left side of his boat, the windows were garbage bags? Okay? Like... What the fuck, dude? That's who our society idolizes now. That's who we glom onto, are people that take absolutely asinine risks because they're so delusional that they think they know everything they could possibly know about doing the thing that they're doing because they're that pompous. And then we give them a name like Lieutenant Dan. Like, how, and people look at Potheads and go, you idiots. That dude had to be on crack. And he looked at the ocean and went, that's a great place to live right now. Are you fucking kidding me? Get out of here. I'm not really sure how you could possibly get to the point in life that you feel like you can outlive nature. That motherfucker ended up having to leave the boat because, like, dude, I don't know what he was thinking. Well, I know what he was thinking. He told us he was just going to hold on for dear life and ride the waves. But clearly it got to be too much. And then after that, everybody's like, yay, Lieutenant Dan. And then he gets arrested for a bunch of different things. Then his arrest record comes out. I don't want to spread rumors because I can't remember exactly, but I think very possibly, maybe, I don't know for sure, that he may have lit someone on fire. Like, hey, can you please tell me how to live on the ocean in a hurricane, Mr. Fireman? Yeah, it's called Get the Fuck Out of There, dummy. Oh my God. Could you imagine? Like, I understand that when you go crazy, you don't necessarily know that you go crazy. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes there's got to be a moment where you tune back in and you're listening to yourself talk and you're like, oh my fucking Christ, what has happened to me? And then in that moment, like, make it to your nearest mental health hospital. That's all I could say. Is like, if you're looking, like, there's been plenty of times, okay, where I've been super stoned and, like, I don't know if you've ever felt this way, but I definitely have. I know a couple of the people that have too, where I've been on a balcony outside of an apartment looking down, and the trees and everything, I'm so high, right? The trees, the way they're illuminated just look so light and fluffy, like little pillows you could just dive right into. And my brain goes, I go, dude, I could just like jump over that thing and land and it's all fluffy and cool. But what you can't see are the 72 branches that are holding up the fluffy leaf looking things, right? And then your brain goes, hey, dum-dum, you can't do that. It's a tree and you're up 14 stories. If you do that, you are dead. Don't do that. And then you go, yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. And then you don't do that. But not Lieutenant Dan. Lieutenant Dan goes, hey, that looks like a really nice, comfortable ride, like a little rocking me to sleep motion living in the ocean. And yeah, and then it'll just get bigger and progressive, and it'll just be the perfect little rocking chair that nature has made for me. I'm going to go live on that until whenever I feel like getting off. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know if that's the move. I don't really, I think that if I decide to do that, like if I were to jump off the balcony, right? Then I might have to reevaluate my life. And definitely reevaluate my fucking life choices. Because I'm jumping off balconies into trees like they're pillows. Granted, weed doesn't make you do insane shit, but it can make you think insane shit. Don't act on it. You're on weed. Oh my God. Our society gloms onto anything that's just, the more like train wreck or car crashy it is, the more attention it gets. Like, you just have to, you either have like super graphic content that just like exploits the people that are putting out the content, even if they don't mean to exploit themselves. Like, the audience ends up exploiting them. You know what I mean? And like pushing them to do something stupid. Because I'm sure the rush of having a bunch of followers while you're in the midst of doing something that's, you know, whatever, like not okay or you're not supposed to be doing is like kind of dangerous, would push you to do it more because you're like, oh my God, you would get a simultaneous rush. You get the rush from the danger and then you get the rush from the accolades from all the people watching your shit, right? So like I can I could kind of understand how you could escalate it and go crazy with it. But at the same time, I feel like your brain is still going to go to you like, hey, dude, preservation, self-preservation. Let's try and keep our feet on the ground here. Let's not be fucking crazy, you know? I don't know. Maybe I'm a boring person. But hopping in a boat in the middle of a hurricane in the ocean is not, and like one of the biggest hurricanes, I think, in a long time at least, that's not my go-to. I wouldn't be like, yes, let's do, like, if my buddy Jim came up to me and was like, dude, I got this boat. We're going to go stay on it because water can't penetrate the boat. I'd be like, nope, thanks. I'm good. I'm going to go find the tallest mountain. I'm going to climb that shit. I don't care if it takes me a week. Like, I'm the fuck out of here, buddy. I'm not sticking around. My biggest fear is fucking drowning. Screw that shit. I'm not jumping in that ocean. Again, a pothead, still logical enough to be like, I'm not doing that shit. Weed makes you ask questions. It makes you wonder. It makes you think, should I do that thing right there? It doesn't make you go, hey, here's a great idea, done, you know? It makes you ponder life. It makes you want to, like, seize the moment and grasp the day, hang on to it, let time stand still for a little while. Weed is not about diving headfirst off a building and hoping you don't hit any tree limbs and the fucking leaves catch you like a nice little fucking angel pillow, you know? Dude. So I don't really understand in this day and age how people can still have the misconception that potheads make bad decisions and are just lazy, stupid, glazed over sacks of meat. You know what I'm saying? I think that a lot of people would be very surprised. Obviously, I can't name names, but I think a lot of people would be very surprised to see how many people frequent if they're against it or if they have a problem with weed itself. I think they'd be surprised at how many of their neighbors are actually like dipping over to the pot shop on the way home. There have been times where I've been walking through the mall in my town and I'll see people that I know from the weed shop and I'll just, you know, be friendly, be like, hey, how's it going? And they will literally turn, look down, and walk the other way because they don't want you to mention that they buy weed. I've done that with two people coming at me on either side of the aisle, and I saw them both, and I went to like wave at one and wave at another, and they both turned away. Meanwhile, the people that they were afraid of finding out were the two of them. Like, they both didn't want the other to find out that they smoked weed. So, like, they wouldn't even acknowledge my presence and be like, hey, how's it going? Meanwhile, they could bond more and probably get closer off of knowing that they both smoke weed. Don't, you know, tell the truth. Don't lie. Just do your thing. Nobody should be mad at you for weed. Weed just makes you think about shit. Weed doesn't make you dumb. Weed makes you introspective. It makes you think about whether you did the right thing or not. That's what's beautiful about smoking weed, is that there's like this natural balance that happens after you smoke where your brain and body kind of connect and you go, did I operate in like a good manner today? You know? It's not always about just like blowing your brains out and getting high and forgetting about life. It's also about pondering life and trying to decide whether or not the decisions that you're making and the way that you're living is the best way for you to live, you know? Because everybody wants to live their fucking best life. That's what I'm saying. So, in order to live our best life, we're going to try these pre-rolls from Dealer. What did I say they were? Blueberry Frost. They're a hybrid. It's a package of 5 half grams. The THC percentage is 27.9%. So I'm hoping they're good. I fucked up lighting the joint, but it does taste delicious. Ooh, that's a nice smoke. They're rolled nice and thin, like long and thin. I kind of like that, but not too thin. They're like, I don't know, they're good. The roll's a little airy though. Like, I like the style of roll, but it's a little airy. It's got to be packed a little tighter, I think. That would be nice. Because then it would burn with more flavor of the weed than the, like, tainted taste of the paper. Yeah. They're not bad, though. They're light. Like, the smoke is light. It doesn't, It hits you in the back of the throat like a cigarette, or like nicotine does. I don't know if it has a very blueberry flavor, but it's smooth. It's really nice and smooth. I like it. Feels like it's coming in from like the top of the head down. Yeah, I might, you know what? These might be some good daytimers, bud. Does it taste blueberry-ish? Doesn't really taste very blueberry-ish. Maybe it's because it's the frost part. Normally the frost part means it's minty, but I don't find it minty. Actually, you know what? The flavor of this isn't that far off G-Mint. If you were watching last week's session, I smoked, it's still in here. I smoked the triple infused G-Mint by Tribal. It's like a toned down flavor of that. It's good though. It'd be a good sharing one. Pass around the circle, you know. This is the first thing I've ever tried from Dealer. I mean, I have their hat. I have a shirt from them. Yeah, it's the first time I've ever actually tried their weed. And you know what? It lives up to what my expectation of it was. It's a lighter smoke, this one, though. Like, it's not creeping in as heavy. It's more of like, how do I explain it? The high is a little softer. It's a little bit of a lighter, headier high. At least that's how it feels right now. It's still relaxing, though. It's actually quite relaxing body-wise. That's good. Again, these would be good cottage weed. If I had an outside, or if I could see outside, I would check to see if the hues were changing. But you know how sometimes when you smoke weed and like the hues start to change a little bit? That's what I like to see from like a sativa or a hybrid leaning sativa. I like to see things change color a little, you know? I don't know. That's just kind of what I want, what I expect from my sativas, is that they hit you in the eyes and they make you view life in a different hue. So you could get a flavor for something else. Imagine you could smoke something and it took you to like literally another dimension. Like, okay, let's say, I don't know. Let's say they put out this strain, you smoke it. It's called Fourth Wall, okay? And the whole concept would be that this weed basically makes you see at least one dimension that we didn't think existed. But like see it clearly and live it. Like it literally changes your ability to comprehend life, and it puts you in another dimension, and then you operate in that dimension for however long the high is. You know what I mean? So that would be cool as shit. Imagine you could get something like that. Like it would just, and that's kind of like, to a dumbed down lesser extent, that's kind of like what it's like when you smoke some weed and the hue of all the color hue changes just slightly. It's like if you sometimes when you take mushrooms, you notice like tracers and the colors change a little bit. Like that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes you can smoke some weed that gets you to that point. This is not that. I'm just saying. So also, this makes you talkative. So it would be a very good social high. You know what's funny? I was thinking about this today. I was thinking about how I'd say like 99% of my reviews are positive towards the things I smoke. And I sometimes wonder if that comes across right, because like it's not that I just like everything. It's just that when I buy weed to try, it's stuff that I'm pretty sure based on knowing who the manufacturer is, that like it's going to be good for me. So very rarely do I find something that I don't like at all. You know, I mostly find things that I'm like, okay, I like this and it's good for this, but I wouldn't necessarily buy it again. Maybe that should be like what the rating is for the stuff I try on the podcast. whether or not I would buy it again. Because there is some weed that's good that you're just not going to smoke again because it's not your kind of high, but it's still good weed. You know what I mean? Because, like, the problem is I don't really want to try bad weed because when when retail weed first came out, there was only, like, really expensive shit or cheap shit. There wasn't that much in between. So when the really expensive stuff you could buy once in a while, because, like, when I'm saying it was expensive, it was expensive. It was like you're paying, like, for some, you're paying like $50 for like a half quarter. You got to be fucking kidding me. Like, that was stupid. So that would be like a treat. And then more often than not, you get something like Tweed or Good Supply or Spinach. And in the beginning, they were not good. Like, it was hit or miss with the bags. They were dry. It was shaky. It wasn't very good. And then as it kind of came along, the buds have gotten better, but the highs haven't gotten better for some of those companies. So some of those companies started to acquire other companies in order to take over their products and bring, be a part of better products in the market. So I'm not saying that these products were horrible and they shouldn't be out there, because they have their place. But what I'm saying is, once I realized and once the market started to build up enough to have that like $25 to $35 price range, there was a lot more variety in things that were good. So I started to learn what was really good without having to spend an arm and a leg to get really good shit. And and so now when I pick the weed that I'm smoking, a lot of the times, like I said, it's not necessarily going to be bad. It's just not going to be maybe the high that I'm looking for. But that's part of the fun of doing this, because then you don't know what kind of high to expect, and then you get whatever you get in the podcast. Like talking about fourth dimensions and shit like that. So I guess now what we'll do, from here on out, from this episode out, what we'll do is we'll rate the weed based on would I buy it again. And in the case of the Dealer Blueberry Frost, would I buy these again? Yes, I would. I would definitely buy these again. They're so far they're super uplifting and they're fun. So yes, because anything that makes me want to have more fun and get social, I'm down for. So yes, I would buy the Dealer Blueberry Frost again. That's the end. The ruling has happened. That is how it will be. Yeah. So hopefully, you'll if you're watching this and you're kind of looking down on how potheads operate, maybe you'll think twice about what the actual fuck is going on in a pothead's head. Because a lot of the times, you see, we just get a little too stoned, so we can't always, like, outwardly convey our thoughts. That doesn't mean that we're not having intelligent thoughts. We're just unable to convey them to you at that moment because high, So I do think it is surprising, though. It always, I like the underdog in life and anything. Like, there's just something about somebody being, put down and then proving people wrong. I love it when potheads prove non-potheads wrong. I love it when people debate alcohol versus weed, and the weed side of things starts to get more love as the back and forth goes on. Like, yeah. It's kind of, I don't know, man. My brain works funny. I feel like a lot of the times people in general see somebody that smokes weed and they think to themselves, like, oh, that guy's a fucking dope, or that girl's a fucking dope. Like, I don't think that they look at a pothead and go, oh yeah, I want you to solve my problems. Or like, be a lawyer for me, even though the pothead might be a lawyer. Do you know what I'm saying? I just think that that's still sort of like the common outlook on potheads. And I find it funny when you have guys like Lieutenant Dan strapping boats to poles in the middle of the fucking ocean, hoping that they can ride out one of the biggest hurricanes in the last I don't know how long. You know, I'll just ride over the waves. No, you won't, Lieutenant Dan. You're going to get swallowed by that bitch. You're going to get tossed around like tuna. You're going to come out like milk. Like, get the fuck out of here, buddy. And then we idolize it, and then we push it, and then we find out that these people do the stupidest shit off to the side. And, you know, we've now idolized this person that's a fucking psychopath. Or a crazy person. Or whatever. Like, not a good contributing member of society. That's what I'm saying. And, like, I think that it partly takes somebody that has that kind of, like, crazy rules don't apply to me mentality to become like noticeable so quickly. You know what I mean? You have to be pretty much a risk taker to get that kind of notoriety, because you have to do crazy shit. You have to do crazy shit. And then the more that people support the crazy shit, the more crazy shit that you do. Right? I don't know. I think it's amazing that that there's people out there that'll do it, and that I'm not so much amazed that there's people that'll watch it, because I fucking watch it. But, like, it amazes me that there's people out there that will do that shit. And a good chunk of doing that, the reasoning behind doing that shit, is because they just want the notoriety. You know what I mean? Why do you want clout from being a dummy? Says the guy hosting a very random cannabis-infused comedy podcast that's sometimes funny. You know? Yeah, so those are my thoughts off the stem for this week. I hope you enjoyed the sesh. Thank you for coming out. I hope your week was great. I hope your everything you're working towards is, you know, moving forward and you're getting what you want out of life. If you're not, don't forget, this too shall pass. What other cheesy slogans can I throw at you? No. Thank you for joining me, Justin Barone, your friendly neighborhood pothead on Thoughts Off the Stem. Hope you come back next week on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, not Anchor, just Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, YouTube, Podchaser, Podbean, Good Pods, Pandora. And you can get all that at tots420.com and the occasional blog. So subscribe, you know, help a brother out. Let's get some more viewers on the channel so I could do some more. I don't know. Tyler and I have a couple good ideas coming up. We're going to play some games. That should bring, trust me, they'll be fun. You should tune in for those. All right. But yeah, check out tots420.com for all the links. Hope you come back next week. Until next time, keep your lids low, baby.
Thoughts off the stem, friend, a neighborhood party.